Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back again to dive more into 8.3's PTR, now to cover the horrific visions of N'Zoth. This was a very interesting announcement throughout Ian's video and his presentation, and it's covering and focusing most on this new system, this new game mode that we'll be talking about today. And it's a sort of odd cross between the Chromie event and the Legion's Mage Towers as well. You're going into the horrific visions of N'Zoth, of what he wants to have come to pass for Orgrimmar and Stormwind, and you're working to stay in those realms as long as you can, defeating as many enemies as you can, and collecting loot along the way. Now, going through and getting into these first requires that you're collecting resources and creating a vessel. Well, it's a potion to be able to access them. You get these by doing any of your invasion events that are happening in Oldham or in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. Once you've collected enough, you're able to turn those into Rathian, and he'll allow you and a group to enter into these horrific visions and see how long you can last. The legendary cloak that he gives you, for example, will start adding more sanity resilience to your character, so you start draining less sanity over time, because once you enter, the time duration, the time set, is based off of that sanity, which will continue to drain and drain even faster if you're taking any avoidable damage. So once you start off, you're placed in Orgrimmar or Stormwind of your choice, and you're placed almost directly in front of the final boss. If you start from the very beginning, once you walk in a day of 8.3, you're probably going to want to go in and kill the last boss as quickly as you possibly can. The Horde starts in the Valley of Strength, and they have to face off against Thrall, and the Alliance has to face off in the Cathedral against the Illyria, is it Illyria? The Void Elf one, the Void Elf Windrunner, the bad one, the real bad one. So you're presented with these bosses, and right from the get-go, the quicker you're able to take them down, the quicker you get that reward. But there's 4 other bosses that are scattered, and most of them are very well-known heroes and villains and whatnot throughout Warcraft, depending on what side you play. You have to fight up against Rexxar, you have to fight up against SI Commander Shaw, and a number of other enemies, friends turned enemies onto that one. So you're working towards clearing out as many of these aberrations, mobs, or even turned allies and turned friends, killing them off, and going to the end boss once all those other areas are cleared, or trying to get as far as you can get. You'll also be equipped with 3 orbs. These regeneration orbs will not only heal you, but also start restoring your sanity back to full. They do ticking healing and ticking sanity regen, and after multiple times practicing, they're not that effective for some of the no-go zones in each capital city. You have 4 zones in each city around the final boss, some of the different districts, the Valley of Honor, the Valley of Strength, Valley of Wisdom, as well as the Dwarven District, etc., etc. You're able to pass through some no-go zones where they have just small walls that you're able to walk through, but deal ticking damage to you if you're standing in that area for too long. We tried to explore some other areas, and I'll go into that a little bit, but the damage dealt is incredibly high, so you're not able to navigate it that easily. You have to be able to find very quick shortcuts to be able to jump into, jump out of, if you want to make your fastest way across the city, killing off any of those bosses. Now, the whole point of these horrific visions is to start working on reversing some of the effects of N'Zoth, and it's also a challenge because of the fact that you're quickly draining sanity, and a lot of the other mechanics and the avoidable mechanics of bosses especially drain that very quickly. The loot that you're getting from them at the moment on PTR is just focused on upgrades that allow you to more easily prevent insanity drain. So it's a 1 to 5 player mode, so some of these upgrades will be related to multiple player group, others more solo focused onto it, but they both serve the same purpose of being able to stay in the zone longer, fight off the enemies longer, and kill off more of the bosses at the end of it. At the moment, it seems like this mode is incredibly favored towards a large group. Having 5 people compared to doing it solo, for example, was just night and day. Being able to have an especially mobile group that can round up mobs and start bringing them behind corners, because there's a lot of caster mobs, is incredibly helpful as well. Stormwind has a lot of long corridors and tight alleyways, making it very easy, whereas Orgrimmar, there's tons of open houses that you can jump into at a moment's notice to be able to drag everything in together without too much of an issue. The Valley of Spirits was very open, and that made the area quite long and tedious to be able to clear, but again, that's just because of how we're min-maxing and trying to find good line of sight spots, and it'll take some time and practice to start figuring out. The big question I think I have about this game mode is what comes next to it? Because yes, being able to set up a challenge for the sake of a challenge is always very interesting to me as a player, but once you start upgrading yourself fully, and on the PTR you can practice at any level of the upgrades. I grabbed every single upgrade possible. My entire group ran in there. We were able to clear it without an issue, which is the intent, I understand. But we wanted to start seeing how difficult it was, and then we've been ratcheting up the difficulty, having less upgraded characters over time, just to see how it feels after that point. Even going so far as to be fully upgraded and exploring the entire zone, seeing what secrets that we can find. Now, in terms of that extra difficulty, yes, it's harder when you're lacking Legendary Cloak or lacking other resources from these upgrades, but there's also the weird thing about these masks. Whenever you enter into the zone, you're greeted by Rathian, and he's surrounded by 5 altars that are empty. These altars have a placeholder, kind of like a tentacle mask that you'll see from some of the priests in Stormsong Valley, some of those void masks. And they start giving you different hints as to where they're supposed to be located. Be shrouded in shadow, they'll be held by a hunter of some sort. And throughout all of these, they give you a little hint as to where it's supposed to be, but at the moment we haven't found any. There are achievements that have been data mined and are available on the PTR that start giving you rewards for having these masks active at any one point in time, which conceivably could be giving you more rewards and more access. At the moment, we searched high and low throughout the entirety of both capital cities and did not find a single mask, even spending a massive amount of time in the no-go zones that are dealing massive ticking damage, but we couldn't find any. As it stands right now, they might be something from Invasions, they might be something from the open world Horrific Visions, which is more of a subset where it allows you to go into Oldham or Vale of Eternal Blossoms with that similar mechanic of sanity drain and having to fight off a number of different enemies in order to cleanse the zone of N'Zoth's corruption. We'll have to see as to what these are going to be giving you, but it does look like it's set up as a very interesting and fun, challenging event, but I would not classify it as a solo event. It can be done solo, and it would probably be very interesting to do solo, but as a healer especially, this is a group event. There's a massive difference in quality of life and in how easy it is to complete if you bring more people. If you bring more people along, it gets considerably easier and a lot more reliable to be able to quickly go through, round up these mobs, and take them down. For that, I don't mind too much because I'm always a fan of group content, and the fact that you can have a flexible group as well is also very heartening to me. That being said, a couple questions kind of remain about this mode. The only rewards we've gotten thus far have been for BOP gear that is of the quality just slightly under Heroic Nyalotha. So if you're a raider, you will replace that gear ridiculously quickly. If anything, it seems like something you'll get a piece or two before the raid comes out, and then that carries you into the raid itself, and after that, you don't have that much of a reason to run it. The content itself is interesting, but since there's no variance in the routes, there's no variance in terms of what enemies that you're going to be facing and where they'll be placed. For this being the last content that is coming out for the expansion, conceivably, unless there's more updates coming with 8.3.5 that we haven't heard about yet, because that's a far way off. It's a little weird to me, and the game mode, while I enjoy it and it's fun, I'm not sure how long it's going to last for me. In many cases, it sort of has like a Warfront vibe to it, where even with a heroic Warfront, yes, you're required to start working together, but it's one of those things that once the routes get confirmed, once the upgrades start rolling in, it becomes something that most people will be able to stomp. And it doesn't seem to quite have a very big motivation behind it. When we go through the Mage Towers, not only was it very fun and challenging content for a lot of people, and for a very long time for a lot of people, since it came out in the Tomb of Sargeras, and you still had people completing it on mains or alts by the end of the expansion. This content at the moment, maybe it'll be able to have that level of challenge, but what is the backup to it? One of the faults, I think, for the Legion Mage Towers was that it was non-repeatable content unless you made an alt. Having something along the lines of incentivizing you to repeat that content would be very fun. If the Horrific Visions is only going to serve to give you heroic quality gear that's not even bind on account, that's a little disheartening. But that being said, there's still a lot more we can look for. One of the biggest things I think that should be added to the Horrific Visions is from the different currencies that you're able to receive, there needs to be a further ramp up of commendation awards, so of reputation awards most specifically. Whether you're completing the Horrific Visions to earn rep with the new factions, but I think most importantly, the Horrific Visions could be a great source of earning reputation for your alts for some of the old factions. We've all been having the conversation nonstop about how Essence grind for alts is horrifying. So why not take advantage of the Horrific Visions by incentivizing you to continue running them on your main or even running them on your alts to earn better rewards to catch your alts up more rapidly through reputation gains for the Unshackled or for the Rust Bolt resistance. Seems like this could be an easy win for a number of people. There have to be some sort of limitations, obviously, as to how much you could farm. But being able to have multi-layered amounts of content will keep on giving it fresh life and keep on incentivizing people to play their alts, which in turn, they need to be able to go through the raids and go through these experiences once again, gearing your alts so that they're going to be at the level of quickly clearing through the Horrific Visions, that they will be able to be incentivized to go through this 8.3 content, to collect their legendary cloak on an alt, to start working on some of those personal upgrades to last longer in the Horrific Visions realm. All of those things stand out to me as being greater incentives to make sure that this content, which is 3 days old, to be fair, lasts a long time. Incentivizing people so that the content is going to last the conceivably 8 to 10 months of 8.3 that we are looking to have. Unless there's going to be some big updates with 8.3.5, we don't know yet, but making sure that you're setting yourself up for success, especially since we're in the PTR, seems like it would be a great thing to do if you have good foresight. Let me know what you guys think of the Horrific Visions. If you have any other kind of questions on them, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so for more video content goodness. And always, check out the stream. That's where we're rocking all the time. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll catch you all next time.